members of Congress, some members of Congress happen to be dinosaurs, and nothing made that clearer than a 3.5-hour long meeting or hearing that the House had with the CEO of Google. Now, the CEO of Google, Sundar Pichai, remained patient throughout this hearing, and the whole point of the hearing was to discover whether or not Google has some sort of political bias, either against or in favor of Republicans. And it turned into a 3.5-hour whining session by members of Congress who also revealed that they don't really understand how the internet works. Now, I want to show you a few of the highlights, and one of those highlights included a Democrat, and she talked about, how does the algorithm really work? That was her question. Take a look.
If you Google the word idiot under images, a picture of Donald Trump comes up. I just did that. How would that happen? How does search work so that that would occur?
We provide search today for any time you type in a keyword. We, as Google, we've gone out and crawled and stored copies of billions of web pages in our index. And we take the keyword and match it against web pages and rank them based on over 200 signals. Things like relevance, freshness, popularity, how other people are using it.
So it's not some little man sitting behind the curtain figuring out what we're going to show.
We don't manually intervene on any particular search result.
So Representative Lofgren's question was a little tongue-in-cheek because Republicans feel outraged that Donald Trump's photo comes up if you Google the word idiot. And so she was trying to get the CEO to explain how the algorithm works. She's trying to explain or get him to explain that there isn't like some mischievous person behind the scenes who's putting up pictures of Trump just to insult him.
So then the Republicans are going to do a good enough job in a second. You're going to love these videos of embarrassing themselves, humiliating themselves. But I have to confess that the first time the media executives from digital media companies like Google, Facebook, et cetera, came to Congress, I couldn't quite believe how bad some of the questions were. And I thought, well, maybe they're thinking of something else and they're just stating it a little bit wrong. And I mean, they've got these giant staff. They must have studied up for this and their staff must have informed them. It's like when Donald Trump does outrageous lies. You think, well, it must be based on something. I know it's not true, but it must be based on some kernel of truth that he's doing a hyperbole around it. And then you find out, no, sometimes Donald Trump just makes up things out of whole cloth, just pulls them out of nowhere, right? Figment of his imagination. And with Republican legislators, some Democrats too, but mainly Republicans in this case, they really have no idea how the internet works. No, it's almost unimaginable to you and me. They think that Google wants to put Donald Trump's picture under idiot, so they just go, okay, the CEO's like, all right, somebody take the picture of Donald Trump and put it under it. No, you morons, your picture should come up under idiot. Of course, that's not how it works. As he said, there's 200 different factors that go into the search algorithms. The reason that Google won the internet is because their search engine is the best by an order of magnitude. And why is it the best? Because it gives the results that people are looking for. That's why it beat all the other search engines. And so it is based on the search patterns of actual individuals. In fact, a great example was the last time around, Republicans complained, well, when you type in California Republican Party, a Nazi shows up. That's because the Nazi was leading in the California Republican Party Senate primary. So what Google showed you the results that everybody searched for, which was in one poll. This guy who was an avowed Nazi in the Senate race in California was polling the best among Republicans. He polled at 18%. So everybody was amazed by that. And so they kept Googling California Republican Nazi, right? And so that's why it showed up high. And they're like, who at Google ordered us to be called Nazis? Oh, you morons.
Right, well, look, one thing that I want people to kind of pay attention to as we show you these clips and give you some of these graphics is that, this isn't a hearing meant to tackle what I think is a bigger problem. And that bigger problem is thought bubbles that keep reinforcing our preconceived notions or our opinions or our perspectives on everything, including politics. So if you're searching for or reading content that leans either to the right or left, Google's search results will keep feeding you stuff that reinforces what you already like and what you already believe. So these thought bubbles, I believe, are problematic because they lead to further division in the country. I mean, we have different perspectives and we live in different worlds because in this new digital era, we're only seeing things that Google thinks that we want to see. I argue that that is a bigger problem. Instead, this turned into a huge vanity project, an ego boosting mission for our members of Congress. And unfortunately, at the same time, they embarrass themselves by proving how little they know about how the internet works. Now, I want to give you a few more examples, okay? Now, Steve King is about to, just watch the video, take a look.
I have a 7-year-old granddaughter who picked up her phone before the election, and she's playing a little game, kind of game a kid would play, and up on there pops a picture of her grandfather. And I'm not gonna say into the record what kind of language was used around that picture of her grandfather, but I'd ask you, how does that show up on a 7-year-old's iPhone who's playing a kid's game?
Congressman, iPhone is made by a different company, and so, I mean,
it might have been an Android. It's just, it was a hand-me-down of some kind.
I'd
ask.
I'm happy to follow up and understand the specifics. There may be an application which was being used, which had a notification, but I'm happy to understand it better and clarify it for you.
Okay.
So it's hard to hear in that video, but people in the room laughed when he's like, iPhone's made by a different company. Sorry, I don't also control iPhone, okay?
I mean, this is so embarrassing. And look, I think that one of the best things that came out of this was Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's reaction to how Steve King embarrassed himself during this hearing. Because Steve King is one of these right-wingers who keeps dismissing AOC as if she's in over her head, she's not intelligent enough to be a member of Congress, she doesn't know enough, right? And so what did Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez tweet in response to this? I wanna share it with you because it went viral for a good reason, obvious reason. She said, Republicans, she doesn't know what she's talking about, also Republicans. And then she shares the headline featuring Steve King mixing up iPhone as a product that Google sells.
Yeah, so first of all, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez sent in a video for our special tomorrow night that is going to be 8 to 11 p.m. Eastern on what should be the progressive agenda for the next 2 years. Ro Khanna is also going to be on it. Kyle Kulinski, Jimmy Dore, Rosario Dawson, Nomiki Khan, so many others will be on tomorrow night with us right here on tyt.com/live. You should check that out for what the agenda of progressives are going to be for the next 2 years. And we're trying to do that here as Homo Progressives. Obviously, tyt.com/join to become a member and support the Homo Progressives. So now back to Steve King. I actually think that the dumber thing might be the idea that even if it was a Google product, that Google somehow is purposely serving Steve King's granddaughter things that are against Steve King. Like that, he's got way bigger fish to fry.
Right.
Right. So that's the CEO of Google. Well, you're asking him, why did something pop up on a random phone? How in the world could he possibly answer that? What are you talking about? And is the implication like, is Google trying to send my granddaughter a picture that has bad language about me? Google doesn't do that. You're so stupid. It has nothing to do with Google.
You know who sends your granddaughter negative PR or negative publications, negative anything about you? You do. On a daily basis with your white supremacy, with your Nazi-like comments. I mean, Steve King, all of these lawmakers who are complaining about Google are complaining about articles that are being published about them that shines a negative light on some of the things that they've done and said. Then don't do and say those negative things. I mean, they can't believe that there are negative articles about them online, and they only want the positive stuff to come up. So there's more though. There's Representative Steve Chabot, he's a Republican from Ohio, and he actually complained. he had to go deep into his search results to find any positive articles about the Republican effort to repeal the Affordable Care Act. Yeah, well, I'm gonna show you that interaction. Let's take a look at that.
Republicans in the House passed legislation to repeal and replace Obamacare. Our bill was called the American Health Care Act, or the AHCA. When I was writing my blog about that, I Googled American Health Care Act, and virtually every article was an attack on our bill. Article after article alleging that our bill would result in millions and millions of people losing the great care that they were supposedly getting under Obamacare. I would argue that was completely false. Let me give you a second example. The Republican tax cut bill was passed about a year ago, the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, same story. Article after article attacking the Republican tax cut plan, alleging the tax cuts only went to the rich. Now, I know Google's attitude, the algorithm made us do it, but I don't know that I buy that.
So what's your counter theory? That Google is going around in every bill and every proposal, be like, move the articles that favor Democrats up, move the ones that don't favor Republicans down, and jeopardize billions upon billions of dollars because of a tiny little political agenda. I mean, it's not how Google works. They're so stupid. But I realize in the middle of his statement why they are thinking the way that they do. Like,
they have no self-awareness, Cenk. Like, no self-awareness. Like, he's perplexed that he's having a difficult time finding positive reinforcement for their efforts to repeal the Affordable Care Act. I used to think that they knew what the people wanted, but they just ignored it. But no, they think that most Americans want to just outright repeal the Affordable Care Act. Like, he's shocked that there's negative commentary about that online. And it's harder to find positive commentary about it.
But there is almost no positive thing to say about a $1.9 trillion tax cut for the rich that has not helped the economy, that has created a huge hole in the deficit. And so I figured out why they're thinking this way. I mean, yes, they don't understand the internet. Yes, Anna's right, they have no self-awareness. But I think the main thing is because they're used to media that helps them call it even. So they're used to television and honestly even newspapers saying, well, Democrats say it was a bad bill, but Republicans say it was a terrific bill. And so there you go, there's the two perspectives, it's 50-50. But the people don't think that. Their search results show that no, they are reading the articles that show you why it's disastrous. Those articles are proving more successful. Because why? It's not just because people believe that already, it's because they provide information that was useful to people. That is why they moved up the search query. And when you have real information, it shows you that it's a disaster. And so there's the Republicans going, why won't Google fix it to make us look like we're just as right like we do with the rest of the media? So we're like, they've intimidated the rest of the media by calling them liberals, so they invited the CEO of Google to yell at him and say, why don't you be even? Okay, are you liberal media? He's like, look, man, it's the people that decide. It has nothing to do with me. It's an algorithm that is powered by the factors that people who search put into it, right? That actually do the searches. And he's like, I don't like that the people don't like us. Make them like us, Google.
Okay. So, I mean, this is just the tip of the iceberg. We could literally do the entire 2-hour show on this, but I'm gonna give you a few more examples of how ridiculous this whole hearing was. Representative Louis Gohmert, he never fails to embarrass himself and the American people. He said he was frustrated that he couldn't edit his own Wikipedia page after ranting that the Southern Poverty Law Center stirs up hate.
They actually track hate groups. They do the opposite. And Google, again, is not Wikipedia.
And you shouldn't be able to edit your own Wikipedia page because then Wikipedia would be completely worthless. Because look, if I could edit my own Wikipedia page, it would be the most glowing Wikipedia page of all time, right? I'm glad that I can't do that because people who do look at that should get a real, view of who I am, what I've accomplished, whatever it is.
It's the same thing. Why won't Google fix things, rig things on behalf of Republicans like the rest of the media does? Because it's not how it works. And again, Wikipedia is not Google. By the way, we made fun of Steve King there for holding up his iPhone. He was one of 3 congressmen that did likewise. Representative Ted Poe and Representative Tom Marino, both Republicans as well, all referenced their iPhone. We're like, why don't you fix my iPhone?
No, it's just
total idiots.
Okay, so Finally, look, Democrats were guilty of embarrassing themselves as well. In fact, we have Representative Steve Cohen. Here's what he had to say. On the other side of the aisle, Representative Cohen wanted to know why his appearances on MSNBC weren't bigger hits on the search engine. Here's his exact quote. He says, "It's hard for me to fathom being on MSNBC for like 8 minutes each show 4 times, and there's more content on Breitbart News than MSNBC. If you'd let me know about that, I'd appreciate it." No, well, they live in an alternate universe. It's kind of amazing.
By the way, Steve Cohen's a good guy on policy, and he's an interesting cat.
Sure.
And but Steve, if you want, or Congressman Cohen, if you want to be higher in the search engine, you should go on the Young Turks, not MSNBC. That'll solve it. They just don't. I mean, they're like, why won't TV work as well as it used to?
No one watches MSNBC. I mean, people do, but it's a completely different audience online. People who consume online news and are loyal to online news are not rushing home to watch whatever, whoever's on.
Some random politician that's on MSNBC or CNN. So, and that's why politicians are mad. I'm telling you, they're used to rigging the media on their behalf. Well, television features us. Why won't Google feature us?
It's amazing.
Because you're not that interesting. And although, to be fair, if you knew Steve Cohen, he's probably the most interesting guy in Congress. But even so, look, dry politicians don't make for interesting content that does well on Google. Sad day for you guys. But congratulations to Steve King and the others, because this was not dry. They were so stupid that this will do really well online. Congrats.
Finally, I do want to bring up the one voice of reason that made headlines, and that was Congressman Ted Lieu. He's from Torrance, California, and he had something very important to say. Take a look.
So I'm gonna search for Congressman Steve King. I'm gonna hit the news tab. First article that pops up is from ABC News. It says, Steve King's racist immigration talk prompts calls for congressional censure. That's a negative article. But you don't have a group of people at Google sitting there thinking and trying to modify search results. Every time Steve King comes up, a negative article appears. That's not what's happening. Let me just conclude here by stating the obvious. If you want positive search results, do positive things. If you don't want negative search results, don't do negative things. And to some of my colleagues across the aisle, if you're getting bad press articles and bad search results, don't blame Google or Facebook or Twitter. Consider blaming yourself.
There you go. Finally, a US congressman that understands how the internet works. The TYT Plus app is now available on iOS and Android. Download to get more TYT content at tyt.com/app.